All right, this is Philip Flores of the Sports Den. Today we are here with Zane Powers. Zane has been involved in the community for a very long time. I have known Zane seems like all my life, almost.
Yeah.
Uh, so, hey, I know you came in around 03.
Yes.
So 20 years. 20 years this year.
That's been wild. Crazy. Cannot believe it's been 20 years. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else.
So I know kind of how you got here. You want to kind of explain how you ended up in Dumas?
Sure. I graduated. I went to high school at Pampa. I grew up in Pampa all my life. My parents moved to Pampa when I was 3 months old. And graduated high school from Pampa, went to college at Wayland Baptist in Plainview. Graduated in 3.5 years and applied for jobs. Got my college degree and moved back home with my parents. I was a real winner. And then I got a call about coming here to First Baptist Church as a student minister, and moved here in March of 2003. So been here, almost exactly 20 years. And as far as the sports scene, being the student minister, I would go watch our kids do stuff, and was at a basketball game in Hereford, and the Rick Russworm, who was doing a lot of play-by-play at that point, was sick that night, and so Dennis Ballou was down there doing the game by himself, and he kind of motioned to me in the stands and said, "Hey, come on down here, come help me." And so I've been doing games ever since, and that was in the spring of '04. So it's 19 years been doing games for KDDD.
I'm gonna say, as long as I can remember, you've been part of the radio.
That's right.
So being here 20 years, you now have a senior.
I do.
In high school, and then you got a sophomore.
Senior and a sophomore.
And then you had a sixth grader.
Yeah, Paige is in sixth grade.
So it kind of go through that, like how you were just a college kid coming here, now you have a kid about to walk.
Yeah, it is. I've always loved doing games here, and being a student pastor, I've always seen these kids as like kind of my own as well. Being able to go through, and especially now, having coached a lot of these kids in little league stuff and seen them play forever, and now getting to see them play on the biggest stage, at least for Dumas, and wear that Dumas Demon jersey and play in those games, it has a different meaning now.
Right. And
I've always been passionate about Dumas athletics and loving to see the kids do what they do. When we started calling games, and I've called a ton of games with Daryl Waite, Dennis Ballou, and then also Scott Palzer. I did Sunray games for a while, Sunray basketball games, and so we've done a lot of games together. And I go back to when there was 3 years in a row that we went to the state volleyball tournament, and the first year we didn't really, as far as a broadcasting, we just didn't know what we were getting into, and so the first year we won the semifinal game and then lost in the state championship game to Louisville Hebron. And Daryl made me go to the interview room that was they just send the girls to it right after the game's over. And so I come back from the interview room and I'm crying because I'd been in there with the girls and they were crying, and it's just man. And so the next year, in 2005, we go and we lose in the state semifinal game, same team, to Louisville Hebron again. And so I told Daryl, I was like, I am not going to the interview room. You can go. And he's like, oh, that's no big deal. I'll go to the interview room. So he comes back crying. And we kind of both told each other, we're not going to do this ever again. And so the next year is when we won state. And just a wildly emotional game that, we were down, I think, 11-4 in Game 5 and came back and won 15-13. And at the end of that call, we're both bawling as we're calling the last few points of that game. It was just we get so invested with what's going on with our kids. It just feels like, man, these are, even though they're not our own kids, it just feels like we're right there with them, having gone through and seen everything that happens during these seasons.
Right. Right. So, has there been a game or a call that sticks out to you that
Well-
is probably like that will stick with you for a while?
Definitely the state championship game. I mean, the one that we won, being down 11-4. Daryl and I actually passed a piece of paper to each other when we were down at that point that said it's over. He wrote it's over on there, and so that comeback definitely. And there's some calls from some other volleyball games that we have that they kind of make fun of me because I get so excited about what was going on. We one year, it might have been that same year. We seemed to play or meet up with Aledo almost every year in volleyball during that stretch. And there was a game, I think, where they had won the first two, and then we came back and won the last three. And I think it was in Childress. And, I mean, we were just, we get so excited in the moment, we just say, really stupid things. And, there's a call in volleyball where a backline player can't go and block at the net. And so in the heat of the moment, I'm trying to describe what's happening. I'm they just called her for jumping over the net, and you can't do that. And it's what does that even mean? How did she jump over the net? And we go back and listen to the game what are we talking about? Volleyball players jumping over the net, obviously. But,
right.
That one, there was in football, there was a comeback in Plainview.
That's the one I was thinking of. I remember I left early that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Come on, Philip.
I was trying to beat traffic, and I left early. And
I think
heard on the radio on the highway.
I'm not completely sure on the stats on this, but I want to say that I know Clayton Baker was a quarterback, and I want to say he threw 6 interceptions. But Dumas was down, I think, 35-13. Came back and I think won 36-35 on the last play of the game.
Yeah, on a Hail Mary.
Crazy.
Andres Baskin back in
the
end zone.
Yep, that's who it was. Yep, Andreas Baskin caught it just on the back side of the end zone. And, it's one of those plays, too, that you're thinking we're on the road. I don't even know what they're going to call it, say that he's in bounds because he was diving for it just at the back end of the end zone. And, yeah, that game for sure was memorable. And then obviously the Decatur football game a couple years ago in Lubbock, where we couldn't even really see where we were at, calling the game up there at Plains Capital Park. We could barely make out what's happening on the field. It was so foggy. And I know, for the extra points and field goals, it's hard to tell for us from our perspective whether those are going in or not. And on that one, we could see them go to kick the ball, and it's for us, the ball just kind of disappears up there. And for those playoff games, we had Daryl's son Jason down on the field, and so he actually had to tell us whether the ball went in or not because we couldn't. Just couldn't really tell what was going on.
Right.
So definitely those games for sure memorable. The Decatur game, obviously the most recent one, but
right.
And for me, Pierce getting into play, he got in last year once. Last year once he got in versus Ulysses, Kansas, and got a sack on the last play of the game.
Yeah.
And I actually wasn't on the radio for that game because their radio booth was so small. I had to sit with the Ulysses, Kansas radio guy inside his booth to keep stats. And so I had to listen to him call that play. I didn't even get to hear Daryl's call of it until Raymond was there that night doing the video for it. And so I had to go back and watch his video of it that had the broadcast on it to hear what Daryl's call of that. So that sticks out as a moment for a memorable moment for me. And of course, this being his senior year and getting to follow him and do all the stuff with the senior stuff. And, it's crazy, especially, we talk about stuff and we talk about the games afterwards. And, it's coming down for basketball season now with 5 games left. And it's kind of I can't believe all this is coming to an end for him. And still at the same time, Peyton's on JV and seeing all that go on and know that, man, a couple of years we're going to be doing this again.
Yeah, basketball season's flown by this year.
It has.
I've been looking at the schedule. Oh, man, when was that? Senior night next week, senior night.
It is.
It's like here already.
I know it. It is unbelievable. It's been exciting. I think seeing the things that I really feel like Coach Estes and Coach Winholtz are really great basketball minds, and I think that there's a really good future that's ahead for both of those teams as well.
We're going to take a quick time out. We'll be right back.
Looking for new ways to promote your business? More MediaWorks can help your business with its variety of digital offerings, from targeted display advertising direct to smartphones, tablets, PCs, and connected televisions, to text-to-consumer, reputation management, search engine optimization, and social media marketing. More MediaWorks is ready to go to work for you today. Give us a call, 806-935-4111.
So I know you are considered the Jim's Demons team stat guy.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Was it just...
Well, it's really interesting. So there was one season, I think it was 2016 maybe, I called Stratford football games. Greg Wright called me, and it was after his sons had graduated, so I think he was kind of wanting, for at least it seemed like for a time, to kind of distance himself from doing some games, kind of free some time up. And so he called and said, would you like to do play-by-play for the Stratford football games? Like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And so I went and called games with Jimmy Lanning, who does their color, but he keeps their stats. And so he used this program on his iPad, and I thought, man, that is so cool how he's able just to pull all this stuff up immediately and do all these things. And Daryl had been kind of designing this program that we had used before that was on Excel, but it was like he had to, like, almost each week go in and tweak things and change things. It was real hard to do. And so I told Daryl, I said, let's try this and we'll see what happens. I talked to Chad Dunham, who was the coach then, and said, let's try this new stat program and just see what happens. And so we started using it, and he's like, send me what you get at halftime so I can kind of have an idea of where we're at, and then we can kind of work from there. Well, after the first couple of games, we're like, man, this stat program is awesome. Like, it keeps everything that we would want to do and then more. And so, I started kind of looking into it, like, let's see what we can do with this thing. And so I started keeping as many things as I could on it while action's all happening. And each week it prints out like 38 pages worth of like analytics for them to look at, like everything specific, like plays they call, down and distance, success in those, like who gets the ball the most, like what our tendencies are. I mean, it goes on all of these different things like you would for a professional football team. Wow. And so kind of from that point on, 2017, we've been like keeping like very, very, very intricate stats for the football team. And so it's fun, though. I love doing it. I remember, like, as a kid, I used to keep stats in a notebook off of games that I would play on like Sega Genesis. And so, like, season by season stats from the Sega has kind of carried over now to keeping stats for the football team.
Well, I know for us, it came in really handy. Last year when we did that football book, I mean, we had so many compliments about the stats, and all everybody just loves seeing all the stuff you kept up with, and
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do it for us, so we appreciate that.
Oh, you bet. I love doing it. It's somebody was asking me if after the boys were done if I would continue to do stuff for the radio, and I said, yeah, I enjoy doing the radio stuff just because it's just a different release. My wife likes me doing the games for the radio because it keeps me from yelling at the referees. And so she's like, yeah, keep the headset on. Like, let's keep you busy during those games. But the football stat thing, I would do that like sitting in the stands because it's so fun with the iPad and doing everything and just like having everything that you need to know like right at that point. And I think I don't get to see this end of it, but I know that it does is it integrates to a website with Digital Scout, and like you can go into that link off of Digital Scout and like see everything live. Like you could watch that almost like as a game cast that like ESPN does. Pretty cool.
Awesome. I use Digital Scout a lot, and it comes in handy. So I've been here 20 years. What's been the biggest difference you've seen over Dumas Athletics?
Well, when we first came, just making the playoffs would be a big deal in football. It would be, if we could have a season just to make it, it was a big deal. And now, we come like off of this year's season where we were 6-5, and it's crazy to think that there was disappointment. It's like, do you understand where we've come from? Do you understand where we've been? But I think that's a good thing. I mean, you see like now, so like we make the playoffs for an 8th straight year, which is a school record. Not even in the 60s, they didn't make the playoffs 8 straight years. And to do it this year in a season where you're not guaranteed to make the playoffs, you have to win some games. You have to get there. You don't just print the playoff shirts at the first of the year because you're a 4-team district. And to make it 8 straight years in doing that on this season was a big deal. And even having to win in the last game, to actually secure that playoff berth, I think kind of made things feel a little bit different. And obviously there was obvious disappointment in not being able to beat Wichita Falls High, but then you go and see what Wichita Falls High did, making it to the regional championship and really standing toe-to-toe with Decatur and feeling like Decatur is probably one of the top, 2 or 3 teams in the state this season. So
right, yeah, I mean, I can.
We were that close, one possession away. So
right,
and that was how a lot of games were this season. So. I feel like Dumas sports overall has kind of has changed in a way where we more expect to win things now. Where before, it's like, man, if we can just win a game or two, if we could just win a district game, it's like it was going to be a successful season. And so I think the expectations here have changed to not just like, let's not just get by, just to get there. Let's go win things. I mean, you look at the girls wrestling team, and there wasn't even a girls wrestling program, 5 years ago?
Right.
And so to do what they've done just in the past couple of weeks to win that dual state championship, and now they're going to head and I think have a great chance at winning the team championship. And the regional wrestling tournament this year, is in Canyon. It's been in El Paso for as long as I know that wrestling has been around. And so to kind of be able to play or be able to go wrestle in the regional championship in your backyard, I think both of these teams, the guys and the girls, have a great chance at winning the state championship. And so you look at that, and I think there's some excitement around the softball and baseball teams. Coach Tollison has been doing an incredible job with the softball girls the last few years. They surprised some teams a couple years ago when they made it to the regional quarterfinals against Canyon, or regional quarter semifinals against Canyon, and then a lot of excitement with Trace taking over the baseball team. He's a guy that knows Dumas, loves Dumas, and I'm excited to see what he can do with the baseball team.
I am too. I'm ready for spring sports. I'm ready.
And obviously, soccer too. The soccer guys got a big win over West Plains, who's kind of shown to be pretty good in all sports that they've been here in this first season that they've been competing. And so, I think there's a lot of excitement with everything that's going on. With the success of the football team is kind of spread into the other sports, and we're track season's like getting ready to start. I know they've already started practice, and our guys, we've seen people compete, girls and guys compete at the state level, the state track meet against some really good athletes. And so all of those things, I think, have kind of translated just from the success that kind of started with football. So
right. All right, before we wrap things up here, is there anything you want to throw out there, like any shout-outs to any of your kids or anybody?
Well, I'm a massive fan of Dumas sports, and have loved that I've been able to be involved with them over these past 20 years on the radio side. And so it's really just kind of like a walking dream for me to be able to see my kids out there and playing and doing the things that they're doing with Dumas Sports. And so, I definitely want to tell Pierce and Peyton, I love you. It's awesome to see you play. Paige is going to start, junior high stuff next season. So that's exciting. But I want to give a shout out to all the Dumas coaches too. I know that there's a lot of hard work that goes in, and you're dependent on 14 to 18-year-old kids to get the job done, and it spills over. The hard work that they put in. Like I know personally now with my kids going through it, like I know what they're going through. I know when the coaches get up there during football season, at hours that I thought only came like one time a day, 4 and 5 o'clock. I didn't know it was coming 2 times a day. I know the hours and stuff that they put in to do those things. And so I appreciate that. And it's awesome now to see those things like being able to be paid off with success on the court and in the field and all that kind of stuff. So shout out to all the coaches out there too.
So is it safe to say you're officially a demon, not a harvester?
I am a demon all the way. I mean, it's weird, like going back and watching those games over at Pampa, and walking into like Clifton McNeely Fieldhouse over at Pampa, and not wearing green and gold. But I would not trade it for anything else. I'm orange and black through and through.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was Zane Powers. He has been a very integral part of the community for the past 20 years, and we greatly appreciate everything he's done, not with just the KDDD, but also with the youth at First Baptist Church and everything beyond. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Philip.